Hi, welcome back to 5-Minute Life Hacks. I'm your host, Natalia Ambrosia, coming at you from my bedroom in Los Angeles, California. How are you? I hope you're doing well. I know it's still a crazy time and we're in the middle of transitions and everything's changing weekly, but kind of still the same. I saw a brilliant quote yesterday that was something along the lines of, isn't it funny how every day can be the same, but then you look back and everything is different? And that's kind of capturing the moment for me. On that note, today's episode is about listening to your body and how listening to your body and being in tune with yourself can make you happier because, of course, the more you connect inward and you can look at yourself and notice what's wrong with you and what you need, the happier you're going to be. So at the end of this episode, I'm going to give you a quick little trick on how you can listen to your body right now. This episode was actually inspired by my body and this experience I had a few months ago. I had been working the entire week and I was really busy at work and I was feeling a little bit tired, but not really sure. I had a few colleagues ask me if I was ill just because I had coughed here and there, but I was like, no, I feel fine. I'm fine. I'm just tired. And it wasn't until one of my cousins called me and said, Natalia, I'm sick. I feel awful. I kind of have a little bit of a headache. I'm tired. My body aches. All I want to do is lay in bed. And then it seemed like one of those movies where everything's flashing before your eyes and you're thinking about your colleague and how I was tired and how I didn't want to go to dance class and wanted to sleep really early. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sick. And it was a funny experience for me because I am the type of person that feels like I'm in tune with my body, and I am to a certain degree, but how could I miss that, And then there's other experiences that are very similar, like sometimes TMI, but I need to pee and I won't get alerted by my body until the very last moment where I'm about to pee my pants because I just kind of learned to ignore the signs. And anyway, I know right now is a very taboo time to be sick, but earlier this week I was feeling very similar to how I felt a few months ago, just a little bit tired, run down, and sinuses. And yes, people say it could be corona, and it could. If you're feeling this way, you should get tested. But this is not what I'm talking about right now. Right now, I'm talking about just listening to your body. And so this week, I was also feeling a little bit under the weather. And then I listened to my body and I was asking it, how are you feeling? Are you tired? Is it just allergies? And I found that I was able to control it a little bit more. And so today's trick is about listening to your body because ultimately, your body's what gets you around. Your body's wonderful and it does all these beautiful things for you and you should take care of it. So my quick little trick today is in the mornings when you wake up or at any time of the day, close your eyes and scan your body. Are you thirsty? Do you need to pee? Does your head hurt? Does something feel sore? Have you worked out too much? Are you hungover? Are you happy? Are you sad? Where does it hurt? Ask yourself these questions. There's so many more questions I could ask, kind of like you would a child. Sometimes when a kid is crying and they're not quite sure why they're crying and you kind of have to figure it out, treat your body the same way. So I don't know about you, but I try to practice this daily just because, like I said, I do feel a disconnect between my mind and my body sometimes. I feel like my mind's the one ruling up there, kind of just telling my body what to do. But really, my body's doing all the work. So I feel like if you learn how to connect both of them and get in tune so that it feels like one piece of machinery, you're going to learn really quickly to not even have to scan your body as thoroughly. You're going to be like, yep, I have to pee. Yep, I feel a little bit sick. Yeah, I think I just need to eat a little something. Yeah, I think I just need to cry. I think I just need a hug. The amount of times I've had anxiety and all I needed was to cry, I could have saved myself a lot of anxiety. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. So remember, the quick little trick here is just every morning when you wake up, start from your head and go down to your toes and start scanning your body and checking in, seeing where you need a little something more. And try to do this at least once a day in the mornings. If you can, try to do it multiple times a day, just checking in even a few seconds, and you're going to get better at it. And the more you do it, the easier it's going to be to notice what you need, what you want, and give that to yourself. So try this and then let me know how you go at Natalia Ambrosia on Instagram. I love hearing from you. Don't forget to keep checking in with yourself and checking in with me. Have a beautiful day. You're amazing. Bye.